Well, I mean, so, okay.
Do we do the open again for this or no?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we're going to fire.
So the dog pound.
We do?
32 teams. No, we haven't done the open yet. Is that what you asked?
I said, do we do it again?
Yeah, we're doing it again. Jeremy's doing it. 32 teams, 31 shows. The Cleveland Browns.
Kelley, that's really impressive that you're...
Sunday. Get down to the fairgrounds, Ben Wilson. That's all I got. That's all I got is the monster truck.
So good. Why don't you voice more stuff for us? Why make that would be a very logical.
I like the on the fly ones better. It's better. It's more fun.
I am with you on that. Okay, Cleveland Browns. Well, we've basically talked about one element of the Browns basically this entire offseason, and that is what will happen with Deshaun Watson, which we still do not know. But let's kind of back up a second, Matt, because this was a team that was a wild disappointment a season ago after finally breaking their playoff streak of losing, getting to the postseason, beating the Steelers in a wild card game on the road. But you go 8-9, had all sorts of injury issues starting at the quarterback position with Baker Mayfield, and as you see, numbers were reflected of that. So for as much as a overall season outlook is going to depend on the quarterback situation, Matt, there's still a lot of other pieces here that have to be all sorted out for this Cleveland team.
Yeah, I mean, I was so incredibly bullish on this team going into the season last year. Had all kinds of tickets on them. Obviously, none of which cashed at all. As I watch a 2-run shot for Byron Buxton go over the fence up there for the Twins, 2-1. For the Twins. Kevin Stefanski, Alex Van Pelt at offensive coordinator, Joe Woods at defensive coordinator. So the entire staff, back again, trying to run this back with what they hope to be an elite quarterback, though we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, that's the thing, is we don't know what's going to happen with all that. So, of course, they trade for Deshaun Watson. They also trade for Amari Cooper, who is in. They signed Jacoby Brissett as backup quarterback. However, we might be looking at Jacoby Brissett making several starts or a season's worth of starts for this team, depending on how this all plays out when it's all said and done, Ben. And I mean, that's the big question here about this Browns team. Now, listen, if you actually look at Jacoby Brissett's advanced numbers, and if you actually look at Jacoby Brissett's stuff over the last couple of seasons, he's about league average, actually. I mean, he's not good, but he's not terrible. So the question we will have to ask ourselves here as we run through, the pros and the cons of this team is, can a team led by Jacoby Brissett still be good enough to maybe contend for a playoff spot? And that's what we're going to have to decide somewhere along the way. Right. They also retained David Njoku. They franchise tagged him, and then they went ahead and signed him to an extension. So he is in. On the outside of things, Jarvis Landry is with the Saints. Austin Hooper is with the Titans. Troy Hill left for the Rams. Rashard Higgins is over with the Panthers. So all those guys are out of town for them. Now, with the draft, whenever you do what they have done with all these trades and stuff, they didn't have a pick until the third round. They took Martin Emerson, a cornerback, with their third-round pick. They had actually had 3 third-round picks. They had a defensive end, Alex Wright, with a third-round pick, and then a wide receiver, David Bell, with their last third-round pick. Fourth-round pick, Perrion Winfrey, is a defensive tackle for them who might actually end up having to play some minutes. And then in the 4th round, they also took Cade York, kicker out of the greatest college there is, Louisiana State University. But we'll see how that all we'll see how that all plays out.
I think Matt saw my eyes. I was about to jump in there and name a different school just for fun, so you had to clear it up.
Yeah, Louisiana State University. Cade York, kicking Cade. That's
it does feel like he kicked there for about 9 years. I'll tell you that much.
He was, as far as kickers go, pretty popular kicker actually on campus.
Really?
Okay. Yeah.
Well, he was on the big stage, the biggest of big stages a couple times, right?
Yeah. According to Sharp Football, this is the 8th easiest schedule in all of the NFL, and he has them projected at 10 wins. And if you take a look, you will see real quick why this schedule is ranked so easy. And also you will see why, if this Brown squad is only going to be without Deshaun Watson for the first half of the season, this might actually be super incredibly manageable, Ben, and not only incredibly manageable, but could be one of those deals where they can actually make a serious run, because it's not going to be all that penal. If you take a look at the beginning of the season, Panthers, Jets, Steelers, Falcons, first 4 weeks. Even with Jacoby Brissett, you're going to be favored in all 4 of those games. So they're going to be favored weeks 1 through 4, no matter who's playing quarterback, Kelley could play quarterback, and they would be favored in these games. So I don't know. How's the arm?
I throw a mean 10-yard out.
All right, so then there you go. That's all you need. Now look, things change in week 5. Certainly not going to be favored against the Chargers, but depending on what the Patriots look like, that could be something. Could be a push 'em, kind of a pick 'em right there against the Patriot squad. Probably will definitely be a dog at the Ravens. And certainly will be a dog to the Bengals. But it's one of those deals where if they start 4-0, or better yet, if they start 5-1, lost to the Chargers, and they end up beating the Patriots. I mean, if you're sitting there 5-1, if you only are without Deshaun Watson through the first 8 weeks of the year, whatever, you lose to the Ravens, you lose to the Bengals, who cares? Mm-hmm. Now you're sitting 5-3. You come out of this bye into a Dolphins game now with Deshaun Watson, and look, you get to navigate an interesting part of the schedule with him. Now, there is a couple of tough games at the Bills, at home versus the Bucs. But then you get a nice little stretch there where you go at the Texans, you get the Ravens at home, you get the Saints at home. If you're going to go on the road, you get the Ben's looking at his bed about to go down in flames in the first inning. The Commanders on the road. I mean, Commanders, we don't expect to be anything special, and then finish out the season with the Steelers. So I see why the projection is at 10 wins. Is that projection still at 10 wins in your eyes? Like, if Jacoby Brissett's playing quarterback, I mean, that's the deal here. But I mean, the talent on the team. I mean, ESPN has this team as the 6th most talented roster heading into 2022. So when you factor in everything, Stefanski, I think we all think is a good coach.
Yep.
It looks like Joe Woods on the defensive side of the ball knows what he's doing. It looks like Van Pelt helping out there on the offensive side knows what he's doing. You bring in Jacoby Brissett, and listen, I know it's not one of those things where you're jumping up and down about having to start Jacoby Brissett in the NFL in 2022, but I'll put it this way. How many other guys that were available could come in and step in and play 6 to 8 games for you, and you not be like feeling like it's the worst situation ever? Like, this is probably the very best situation they could have stepped into if they have to be without, Deshaun Watson.
I'm with you. They can win 5 games. In those first 8, they can win 5 games before the bye, for sure. You toast already, Ben?
Just a pop-up, barely into the outfield, and the center, I don't know what George Springer literally, they weren't even going to send the runner at third, and George Springer threw it all the way over the pitcher, over the catcher, and the pitcher
the third row.
into the backstop.
Yeah.
It's already 1-0.
Just launched it into the third row.
This is so stupid.
Yeah.
So I swear I'm listening to what you're saying.
No.
And you make a lot of good points. Because remember last year we said, there was a pretty reasonable case we made that if the Browns just stuck with Case Keenum, they probably make the playoffs last year. And instead, Baker Mayfield tried to tough it out and be everybody's hero, and it just didn't work out. I have questions, too, on the defensive side because you mentioned Joe Woods coming back as defensive coordinator. What do we make of this defense that was really, really good against the pass but struggled against the run last year in a division where run defense really matters? We'll discuss that next. Figure out, is there actually value to be made on their futures odds? We'll discuss right after this. We're talking Cleveland Browns, though, as we continue. 32 teams, 31 shows. So last year, Matt, this was a Browns defense that, as you talked about with Joe Woods as the defensive coordinator, very good last year in overall DVOA at Football Outsiders against the pass. They were 7th in that mark, 23rd against the run. And they did, we talked about resigning Jadeveon Clowney to a 1-year deal. But you look at the type of guys that they have, it kind of profiles as a group that will be more of, they are more pass rush type guys. And you wonder, too, with knowing Joe Woods as a coordinator, he's used a lot of light boxes in the past. If you look at his breakdowns, we've discussed kind of ad nauseum here the offense. We expect there to still be a lot of positivity and a lot of production even without a Deshaun Watson, depending on how long he's missing. What do you make, though, of a defense that certainly has a lot of strengths but also some glaring weaknesses as well?
Yeah, the strengths are on the outside and the weaknesses are very, very glaring on the inside. If you take a look between Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney, the outside, it's going to be great. The re-signing of Clowney just guarantees that Garrett is still going to be able to get mostly one-on-ones and is going to be able to feast on the outside. The problem is is how are they going to stop the run in, as you mentioned, in a division, maybe not necessarily with the Bengals as much this year with the improved offensive line. Maybe they will become even more pass heavy than they have been in the past. But certainly with the Ravens, we know we're going to want to run the ball. And then the Steelers, in what we consider to be a slight rebuild, you would assume they're going to try to run the ball a decent amount as well. So I look and the Ravens, and so you take a look there, and it's like, man, I'm. If you look at Pro Football Focus, 41.6 Elliott graded out, 56.4 Brian graded out on the inside. Elliott last year 102nd out of 109.
Yeesh. You know what college he went to?
Possible defensive linemen that they graded.
The great University of Missouri.
The juxtaposition, though, of Myles Garrett, who was first overall out of all defensive linemen. Yeah. So that is the thing. It's like you have the very best outside rusher going along with one of the very worst inside guys. So, look, the linebacking core actually pretty good across the board. It should be that should help out at least a little bit. These guys, at least from a tackling standpoint and the grades that they've got and all that, they tend to be on the higher end of the spectrum, especially Owosu Kimura. He was ninth overall at 87 different linebackers that were graded by Pro Football Focus last year. But the secondary is the strength here on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, listen, as good as Myles Garrett is, he is but one man, and he's going to take help. He's going to need help in order for him to have a season like he did last year. And if those guys can't, and certainly if Jadeveon Clowney can't stay on the field, right? I mean, because we've seen that happen time and time again, then Garrett's going to get double and triple teamed like we see with Aaron Donald and, and all the things like that. And so it's going to be down to Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, Greedy Williams, John Johnson, and then Grant Delpit. Now, when you read off those names and you look, I mean, that is a super high pedigree right there of all those guys. These are all super high draft picks. These are all guys that, again, the upside on some, when I say some, like a Greedy Williams and a Grant Delpit, who are still kind of young, and then the pedigree on a John Johnson and Denzel Ward is super, super high, right? And so this secondary, actually, Pro Football Focus likes them so much, they're third overall.
Rated 3.
Yeah, like rated third overall heading into the 2022 season here. And so they can do a lot to help out the lack of what you're going to get maybe from this defensive line. But as we know, I mean, they can only do so much. And these quarterbacks are so good these days. The passing schemes are so good these days that if a guy just has if a guy has a long time to throw, it doesn't matter how good Denzel Ward plays or Grant Delpit or John Johnson or Greedy Williams or any of these guys, like it's just they're going to complete passes on you, and so that's going to be the big deal. And the other big deal on this is we talk about, look, the offensive line is nails. I mean, like as good an offensive line as you're going to put together. Wills, Batonio, Harris, Teller, and Conklin is legitimately like a dream team of offensive linemen. So they'll be able to run the ball. And maybe they'll do a lot of running. Maybe they'll do even more running to kind of try and mask whatever deficiencies they may have at the quarterback position. But they also might run the ball even more this year because of what's happening at the wide receiver position, right? So they do have Amari Cooper, but after that, it is incredibly unproven people after that. Rashard Higgins, listen, he's not a superstar, but at least he was a guy you could go out there and like, he'd been on the team for several years. He understood the system, the situation, and at least was a decent-ish number two. Now your number two has to become Donovan Peoples-Jones. Is he good? We don't know. Like,
hasn't done a whole lot.
Yeah, hadn't done a whole lot, and like we don't know. Like, is he good? We'll find out. I mean, he only got 20 targets as a rookie. He did get like 4 times that as a three or 4 times that or whatever in his second season. This is the third season for him to really show what he can do. They did draft David Bell, so he's going to step in to be the slot receiver from day one. So he's going to try to play that Jarvis Landry role. And will he be able to do anything as a rookie? Listen, it's been a very weird, like rookie receivers has been very weird in the NFL the last couple of seasons. There's the Justin Jeffersons and Jamar Chases of the world who step in and make these instant impacts. And then we also have these guys, more than not, that don't make any impact until year 2, year 3. And so to ask David Bell to step in and replace a Jarvis Landry, who again, wasn't flashy, but what he did do is he was a chain mover, right? He was a precise route runner, had really, really good hands and could move the chains for you. So, listen, I think this team could be fine if they can run the ball and kind of just play keep away a little bit, I think the defense will be good enough. They averaged 4.8 yards per rush attempt whenever they had all these linemen healthy last year, right? I mean, if you're getting 4.8 yards a clip, you're going to be able to possess the ball. Maybe your possession of the ball is almost like a defense for you. But we talk about the interior defensive line. What are you going to get out of the quarterback position? What are you going to get out of these young receivers and stuff? A lot of question marks here for this Browns team, which is why, again, I'm going to pass, man. I'm not going to play them one way or the other. I don't even care about the easy schedule at the beginning.
And again, it's kind of like how both with them and with Cincinnati, these are going to be tough teams as well. Like to kind of bet in season, and a lot of that depends right on the Watson case here, but it just makes it difficult when you know, all right, a team is probably going to, like, there's a path to mask a lot of those deficiencies early. You just, even if you like them and how it shapes out, you just aren't going to get value. They're just not really
I think I'll sit back, watch, and see if we figure things out at the beginning of the year.
I think they're on a pick'em week 1 against the Panthers. That'll be interesting. They were pretty heavily favored earlier. Now with Watson presumed to be suspended for that game, pretty much a pick'em for the Browns to open the season against Carolina.